Y'all, this is not just another celebrity breakup. It looks like something way deeper just exploded, and insiders say it all started with one quiet update that flipped everything upside down. Because now it's starting to seem like Megan Thee Stallion didn't just lose a relationship, she lost the future she was already planning in her head. And here's where it gets messy. Reports are claiming that Klay Thompson has already moved on, not just emotionally, but into a whole new life. And allegedly, that life includes Lexi Brown and a pregnancy rumor that hit the internet like a shockwave. Yeah, let that sink in. Because what really has people talking is the timing. 1 minute, Megan is talking about family, kids, building something real, and the next, it looks like someone else is living that exact dream with the same man. And just when you think it couldn't get worse, Megan drops that IG message. No names, no direct call-out, but the energy? Loud, painful. Almost like she's saying, I was building a life with you, so what changed? Now insiders are saying this wasn't sudden at all. It looks like there may have been a double life, secret communication, hidden moves, and the most dangerous claim of all, this relationship might have only been real on the surface. Meanwhile, Lexi goes silent. Comments off. Statements controlled. Timing? Way too perfect. And Klay? Moving like nothing happened. So now the question isn't just what happened, it's how long was this really going on, and who knew before it all came crashing down?
I do want a family.
How many?
I want like 5 kids.
You are only child and you want 5 kids?
Yeah, because I know what it's like to be the only child and you want friends. My kids. I want.
Oh, you want that for them? You didn't want that.
To be cool with each other.
Right.
I don't want them to have to be worried about everybody else being their fake ass friend. This your blood brother, your blood sister. This your damn friend.
Right.
Us. Our little group. That's what I want for me.
It looks like the deeper you go into the situation, the worse it actually gets. Because now insiders are saying this wasn't just a sudden breakup or a random rumor that spiraled out of control. It's starting to seem like this entire situation had layers, and those layers didn't just appear overnight. At the center of it all is Megan Thee Stallion, and the version of her that people are now revisiting is not the one reacting today, but the one who is planning a future. And that's where things start to hit differently. Because it looks like while all of this chaos is unfolding now, Megan had already been mentally locked into something serious long before any of this came out. A future that wasn't casual. A future that, according to her own words, was structured, intentional, and deeply personal.
It'd be tough, but today I'm being vulnerable. I wanted to be my raw and real self and like let everybody see exactly what.
And suddenly, that clip hits different. Because now people are connecting that dream to what's being reported today, and it's creating a narrative that feels almost too coincidental to ignore. And just when the emotional side starts pulling people in, the narrative flips again. Because what really has people talking is not just what happened, but who might be involved. It's starting to seem like Klay Thompson wasn't just quietly moving on. Insiders say there may have been overlap. And that's where the name Lexi Brown starts trending.
The current rumor on the internet streets is that Klay cheated on Megan Thee Stallion with the WNBA player Lexi Brown. Let's get into it. Once the news dropped about Megan Thee Stallion this afternoon, Lexi immediately locked up her comments on IG.
And just like that, the entire situation shifts from heartbreak to possible betrayal. Because now the conversation isn't just about Megan being hurt. It's about timing. It's about how fast everything changed. And it's about whether this was already happening behind the scenes while the public was still watching a completely different story unfold. But then, another detail drops.
She had a game today, but for her to immediately have locked up her comments right when this news started circulating, yeah, that's very, very...
And this is where things get uncomfortable. Because people aren't just reacting anymore, they're analyzing. They're looking at behavior, they're looking at patterns, they're looking at what didn't make sense before, but suddenly does now. And insiders are saying this reaction wasn't random. Because the moment the rumors started circulating, silence followed. And in situations like this, silence speaks louder than statements. Now here's where the narrative takes another turn. Because this isn't the first time questions have been raised. It looks like this situation may go further back than most people initially thought. Way before the headlines. Way before the viral posts.
People are talking about these old blind items that are allegedly about Megan and Klay. This one was from Friday, January 16th. It said the NBA player is cheating on the 3-named singer rapper every chance he gets. I think it's Klay. This is from 186 days ago. He said he had a flip phone with Laura Harrier and he cheated anyways. His older brother follows all of Klay's girls and even invites them to vacations and parties for him. Remember when an IG model exposed his diary?
And that right there changes everything. Because now it's not just about one moment. It's about a pattern, a timeline, A possibility that what's happening now might actually be the result of something that's been building quietly in the background for months. And if that's true, then this isn't just messy. It's calculated. Because people are now asking, was this relationship ever what it seemed? Or was it something that looked real on the outside, but was already unstable behind the scenes? And the more this unfolds, the more it feels like Megan may have been the last one to fully see it. Because while she was showing up publicly, supporting, building, investing, it looks like something else was happening privately. Something that didn't match the image. Something that didn't match the energy. And now that everything is surfacing at once, it's creating a contrast that's hard to ignore. On one side, you have Megan's vision, her words, her plans. On the other, you have rumors, timing, silence, and a completely different reality forming. And what really makes this situation heavy is not just what's being said, it's what's not being denied clearly enough. Because insiders keep hinting at the same thing, that this wasn't random, that this wasn't sudden, that this may have been playing out quietly while everyone else was focused on the surface. And now that the surface has cracked, everything underneath is starting to show. But the biggest question still hasn't been answered. Not fully. Because if all of this is lining up the way it looks, then when exactly did things really change? And more importantly, who knew first and who found out last? It's starting to look like the deeper you dig into this, the more one-sided everything begins to feel. Because now the narrative isn't just about rumors or timing anymore, it's about effort, investment, energy that was clearly coming from one side, while the other side, still unclear. And insiders are now pointing to something that changes the emotional weight of this entire situation. Because if you go back and really look at how Megan Thee Stallion was moving in this relationship, it doesn't look casual at all. It looks intentional. It looks real.
Never dated somebody so kind. Like, this is my first relationship where I ever been with somebody who's genuinely a nice person, and he makes me genuinely happy. Like, I just never dated somebody like him before, and I'm just grateful that he here by my side and he feels.
And suddenly, that clip feels heavier than it did before. Because now people aren't just hearing what she said. They're questioning what she believed. Because it's starting to seem like while she was fully locked in emotionally, building something genuine, trusting the process, there may have already been cracks forming behind the scenes. And here's where it shifts again. Because it wasn't just words. It was actions. Public actions. Visible support. Moments that made it look like everything was solid.
Team, knowing his role.
New gym body.
See, this is what I'm saying.
I'm cute, bro. I'm cute.
Hey, Klay, I'm telling you now, those Texas.
And now that clip hits completely different. Because what once looked like a supportive partner showing up, now looks like someone who may have been the only one truly showing up. And insiders are saying that's what makes this situation hit harder. Because it's not just about cheating rumors. It's about imbalance. Energy that wasn't being matched. And then, another layer gets added. No words needed. Because that moment alone tells a story. Effort, planning, going out of your way for someone. And now people are asking, was that same energy ever returned the same way? Or was one person building memories, while the other was already halfway out? And just when the emotional side reaches its peak, the tone flips again. Because now attention shifts directly to Klay Thompson. And what he didn't say might be louder than anything else in this entire situation.
Summer for you, and more importantly, how's your relationship made you better as a man on and off the floor, and how that's going to move forward for you as far as your career?
My relationship with
Megan Thee Stallion.
I'm not gonna.
And that right there, that moment, that hesitation, that refusal, it doesn't confirm anything directly, but it definitely doesn't shut anything down either. And in situations like this, ambiguity creates more questions than answers. Because now insiders are saying, if everything was solid, why avoid the question? If everything was real, why not stand on it publicly? And that's where the narrative starts to shift again. From confusion to suspicion. Because people are now going back, rewatching moments, reanalyzing energy, looking for signs that didn't make sense before, but suddenly feel obvious now. And it's starting to look like those signs were always there, just ignored. Because when someone is fully invested, they don't always see the imbalance. They don't always question the silence. They don't always catch the distance early enough. And by the time they do, everything has already shifted. Now here's what makes this part even heavier. Because while all of this is being dissected publicly, there's still no clear accountability. No direct explanation. Just moments, clips, energy, and a timeline that doesn't fully add up. And insiders keep circling back to the same idea. That this wasn't sudden. That this wasn't random. That this might have been emotionally over, long before it officially ended. Which raises the biggest question of this entire situation so far. Was Megan holding onto something that had already changed? Or was she never given the full truth to begin with? Because if that's the case, then this isn't just about heartbreak. This is about being present in something that might have already been gone. It looks like by the time everything reached the surface, the damage had already been done. Because now insiders are saying what we're watching isn't the beginning of the fallout. It's the aftermath. And the more clips people revisit, the more it starts to feel like the ending was already written, long before the public caught on. And that right there changed the tone completely. Because what once looked like normal moments between Megan Thee Stallion and Klay Thompson now feels off. Energy doesn't lie. And people are now saying the disconnect was visible, just not understood at the time. Because when you look back at it now, it doesn't feel like two people building something together. It feels like one person holding on, while the other was already pulling away. And just when the emotional side reaches its breaking point, the narrative flips one last time. Because now attention shifts to what Klay is doing after everything has surfaced. Not statements, not explanations, just behavior. And that's where things get uncomfortable again. Because insiders are pointing out how calm everything seems on his side. Too calm. Like nothing really changed. Like nothing really happened. And that contrast? That's what's making this situation explode even more online. Because on one side, you have silence. You have distance. You have someone processing something heavy, privately. And on the other, you have movement. Normalcy. Almost like a brand new chapter already in motion. And now people are asking, how do you go from one reality to another that fast? Unless that second reality was already there, waiting. And this is where the narrative reaches its darkest point. Because it's starting to seem like this wasn't just a breakup that happened and then people moved on. It looks like one person moved on, while the other was still inside the relationship. And if that's true, then everything changes. Because now this isn't just about cheating rumors. It's about timing. It's about honesty. It's about whether the truth was ever fully shared. And insiders keep repeating this same quiet claim, that what's public now is only a fraction of what actually happened behind the scenes. Because think about it. The silence, the avoidance, the sudden shift, the new life rumors, the controlled reactions. It all lines up a little too clean. And when things line up that clean, people start questioning how long it's really been in motion. Because maybe the real story isn't what happened at the end. Maybe it's when it actually started. And that question still hasn't been answered. Because if everything we're seeing now is just the surface, then what's still hidden? What hasn't come out yet? And more importantly, if this really was a perfect relationship at one point, at what exact moment did it stop being real? Or worse, was it ever as real as it looked in the first place? It looks like this story still isn't finished, not even close. Because insiders are now saying what we've seen so far might only be the controlled version, the version that made it to the surface. And if that's true, then the real timeline could be way deeper than what's been shown. Because think about it, the silence, the timing, the sudden shift into a new life, it all feels too smooth to be random. It's starting to seem like pieces were already moving long before the public ever caught on. And that changes everything. Because if this really was building behind the scenes, then the biggest question isn't who moved on. It's when did it actually start? And more importantly, who knew and who didn't? Because right now, it looks like one side had time to adjust, to transition, to prepare for what was next. While the other, still catching up to a reality that may have already changed. And insiders keep hinting at something else. That there are still details that haven't surfaced yet. Conversations we haven't heard, moments we haven't seen, decisions that haven't been explained. And if those pieces come out, this entire narrative could flip again. Because what we're looking at right now might not be the full story. It might just be the beginning of what's about to unravel next. So now the real question is, was this ever just a breakup? Or are we watching a situation where the truth is still being revealed, one layer at a time? And if that next layer drops, who does it protect and who does it expose?